Okay, today we're going to go on an incredible journey. We're going to connect a brand new Nobel Prize winning scientific discovery with an insight so accurate it's hard to believe it's over 2,500 years old. We're bridging molecular biology and ancient wisdom to understand the very fabric of our reality. And it all starts with a really, really simple question. So let me ask you something. How do you know right this second that you're sitting down, or maybe you're standing or lying down? How do you know? You'd probably say, well, I can feel the chair, or I feel the pressure of the floor on my feet. But what exactly is that feeling? Well, here's the thing. Your body isn't using words to tell you about the chair. It's using a much more fundamental language, electricity. That simple feeling of sitting is actually a super complex electrical signal shot from your body up to your brain, which then translates it into a conscious experience. Now, what's wild is that for centuries, we've basically understood how sight and hearing work. Light hits our eyes, sound waves vibrate our eardrums, but our most basic, most intimate sense, the sense of touch, that was a complete scientific mystery, a total black box. Just think about that for a second. We could explain how we see stars millions of light years away, but we had no idea how we feel a simple handshake. We didn't know what the biological switch was that turns physical pressure into the electrical language of our nerves. That is until a Nobel Prize-winning discovery in 2021 changed everything. So this discovery was the result of a grueling, years-long hunt led by a scientist named Ardem Patapatian. His team was looking for the one single gene that was responsible for our sense of touch, kind of like the holy grail of biology, and their method was just unbelievably painstaking. One by one, they would turn off a gene, and then they'd poke a cell to see if it still reacted. Can you imagine the patience that took? They tested the first gene, poke. The cell still felt it. Failure. They tested the 10th gene. Failure. The 50th gene. Still nothing. For 71 straight attempts, they got nothing. They were just poking cells in the dark, hitting one dead end after another. And then came candidate number 72. They turned off this gene, they poked the cell, and silence. Nothing. The cell had become completely blind to touch. Right there, after 71 failures, they had found it. They'd discovered the mechanical switch for sensation itself. They named the protein that this gene creates Piezo, which is from the Greek word for pressure. And these piezo channels are these amazingly designed, nano-sized proteins that look and act just like tiny three-bladed propellers that are embedded in the surface of all our cells. The way it works is just pure mechanical genius. First, a physical force, like you sitting in your chair, bends the cell's outer wall. Second, that tension makes the little three-bladed piezo propeller twist, and that opens up a gate in its center. And third, bam, an electrical current of ions floods through that gate, sending a signal straight to the brain. Just like that, physical force becomes electricity. Okay, so this is where our story takes a truly mind-bending turn. This cutting-edge, Nobel Prize-winning discovery provides an almost unbelievably precise biological explanation for core ideas about reality that were taught by the Buddha 2,600 years ago. The parallels are just stunning. I mean, look at this. It's so striking. That first moment of physical force on the cell, that's what ancient Buddhist texts called Phassa, or contact. The whole process of turning that force into electricity, that's a perfect description of the birth of sensation. And our body's amazing ability to know where it is in space, which uses another type of piezo channel, that maps directly onto sampajanya, or clear comprehension of the body. Science has literally just put modern labels on ancient truths. And here is the absolute crucial insight. Your piezo channels have no idea what a hand or a chair is. They don't send those ideas to your brain. All they send is raw data, signals for hardness, softness, tension, movement. This is exactly what the Buddha called paramatta, or ultimate reality, the world as it actually is, before our mind comes in and slaps a label on it. Now, knowing all this doesn't just give us a cool fact to share at a party, it gives us a user's manual for our own nervous system. Mindfulness and meditation are, in a very real biological sense, a way of consciously tuning this incredible inner technology that we all have. Which brings us to a really practical question, right? Why is it that people who meditate a lot can feel these incredibly subtle sensations, like the air moving on their upper lip, while most of us barely even notice something as big as our own breathing. Are they somehow making the sensation stronger? No, not at all. The answer isn't that meditation turns up the volume on the breath signal. The answer is that it turns down the volume on the background noise. See, a distracted mind is full of loud, chaotic static. Thoughts, worries, plans. Meditation quiets all that mental noise, which finally allows the very subtle, always-on electrical signal from those piezo channels to be heard clearly. And it gets even more amazing when we look at mindful breathing, or anapanasati. When you take a deep breath, you literally stretch the walls of your lungs. This stretch activates piezo channels in your lung tissue, and they send an electrical signal up a massive nerve called the vagus nerve directly into your brainstem. And that signal is basically a command. Hey, everything's safe, you can relax now. It literally triggers your body's rest and digest system. It is a direct biological hack for calming yourself down. So, when we put all this together, it offers a completely revolutionary way to understand our own experience, especially our relationship with things like pain and suffering. The practice of mindfulness allows us to make this profound shift in perspective. We stop being the lead actor who's totally lost in the drama of our sensations, the pain, the pleasure, the itch, and instead, we become the calm observer in the control room, just watching the data come in on the screen. And this is exactly how we separate sensation from suffering. Let's say you stub your toe. The biological process is just a high-frequency electrical signal zipping up from a piezo channel. That's it. But the mind immediately adds a story. Ouch, this is awful, I'm so clumsy, this hurts so much. That story is the suffering. Now, with mindfulness, the biological signal is identical, but the story changes to something like, observing a strong electrical signal in the foot. The sensation is still there, but the suffering, it just vanishes. And this brings us right to the core takeaway, pain. That raw electrical signal from the piezo channels is an unavoidable part of having a body. But suffering is the story we tell ourselves about that signal. Science has discovered that piezo is the receptor for physical pressure, and what Buddhism discovered 2,600 years ago is that mindfulness is the receptor for our interpretation of that pressure. When you get right down to it, your entire felt reality is built from these electrical signals. And at their core, these signals are not good or bad, they're not pleasant or painful, they're simply neutral information. They're just data. We are the ones who decide what to call them. Which leaves us with a final and pretty empowering question. The raw signal coming from your body, right now, in this very moment, is just electricity. So what story will you choose to tell about it? The answer to that question could change absolutely everything.